Hello, I'm Richard, and today I'm here with a friend of mine, John, who studied languages too. He's gone a different route to me with his career. He's in translation, and I wanted to talk to somebody with a different type of role using languages, because I receive an awful lot of messages via my Facebook page, my blog site, and also on YouTube through the comment section on what you can do with languages, and I thought it would be useful to share somebody else's experience working with languages with you today. So John, you studied a similar degree to me at university. Could you talk a little bit about your background in your degree and then how you got into studying for translation?
Yeah, so I came to university having done French and German at school, and I actually looked for a university where I could study more languages, so I added Spanish and Portuguese to those. And then once I'd finished my degree, like many people, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do next. So actually I spent some time improving the level of my languages, which I felt still required a little bit of work. And that also gave me the opportunity to realise that maybe translation was what I wanted to do. I'd enjoyed doing exercises, translation exercises, which we'd used as part of the means to learn the language during the degree, and I realised that was something I could probably do. So I spent some time improving the languages, and then went back to university and did a master's degree in translation.
Oh right. Yeah. So and then people out there often say to me, with your degree or with a master's degree, can you just start working then? Or is there another process involved, another step involved?
With translation, increasingly actually a master's degree is becoming the kind of recognised qualification. Some industries are much more clear on what the recognised qualifications are. Translation is still, so you could get into it actually without a degree, but it's becoming quite common that it would be, and again it depends on the country, but in Britain often it tends to be that you do that and then you go out and look for work. And in my case I found it through an agency when I just finished the degree.
And translation as opposed to interpreting.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that a lot of people out there may be familiar with the differences, but not everybody is always clear. I know whenever I talk about languages, they kind of use the two like synonyms, really.
Yeah, we particularly have a tendency to say translation when we actually mean interpreting. So translation is the written word, and interpreting is the spoken word. Okay. So the translators, the interpreters at conferences and at major events, they're using the spoken word. That's interpreting. Translation is what I do, which is only with the written word. Okay. You do have people who do both as well, though, but not everybody. Not every translator is an interpreter, and vice versa. But some may be.
And how do you choose an area where you want to work? Is it kind of where you find work and then you get into a subject, say, I don't know, some sort of topic of translation? So if the topics are numerous.
Yeah, it's a very broad church, so to speak. It might be something which you just happen to have an interest in anyway. Okay. Which leads you like to do that. You don't necessarily know a huge amount about it, but you sort of move in that direction. It might be experience you already have. An interesting thing which was particularly the approach of the master's degree that I did, and it ended up 50-50, people who had studied languages and wanted to get into translation, like myself. Right. People who were coming to it with some other professional skill that they already had, they happened to speak other languages. Which they learnt, and so they then came into translation from that, and naturally they would then translate in the field they already were very familiar with. So you can come at it from both directions.
So obviously if you've already studied something like medicine or something else, and then you decide you want to go to translation, then you've got that specialist knowledge.
Exactly. I had one of the other people in my course was a nurse, for example. She'd been a nurse, she decided translation might be something she'd like to try, because she happened to speak French as well.
And how was it for you going into, for example, a new area? What was your first area of translation?
Right, so the first thing I ended up in was sort of financial and media and, well, little bits actually, but sort of companies and things like that, translating media stuff about financial companies and things. So that, that obviously meant I started to get to know that area of things, business and finances.
So would you say that there's a sort of a period of learning all this new terminology, a new way of expressing ideas.
Definitely. Yeah, one of the things you find in translation is, in particular fields, things are expressed in a certain way.
Yeah.
And each field can be quite different, actually. So you come with, your knowledge of your languages, and then you learn a whole lot more about your languages, even your own native language, it should be said. Yeah.
Wow. It sounds like there's an awful lot involved once you've got past the degree stage and the master stage.
Absolutely. I think one of the most important things in translation, apart from having sort of strong command of particularly your native language and also the languages that you're going to translate out of, is also just a desire to learn and know more. They always say, must have strong general knowledge. You've got to have an interest in the world, and obviously particularly in the field that you're translating as well.
Now, I've heard from other people I know, and they say that certain languages they find more work in, and others it's harder to find translation projects to become involved in, to actually earn the money. And I've even heard of people learning new languages to be able to use them in the future.
Absolutely, yeah.
What's your experience been with languages and what you've used in the past, and have you considered doing that?
Yes, that was something that was actually talked about when I was studying.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly if you have, for example, if you speak German,
Mm-hmm.
any other Germanic language. Dutch maybe is an obvious one, but another Germanic language might be something else. If you speak French, maybe Spanish or whatever. Learning cognate languages is something you can learn, and it's something in language learning generally. You find it's easier to learn a cognate language, and so you can sort of add a language to your repertoire relatively easily if you do that. But hey, you might have a particular interest in, I don't know, Korea, and decide you want to learn Korean, and if that's what you want to do it, because I'm sure there'll be work in that. Some languages there's more work in, and some languages there are more people already available to work in those languages. So if I don't know if I'm a very good example. French, Spanish. There's lots of French and Spanish translators to English. So obviously it's a bigger field. Now there is more work in those languages, but there are also a lot more people. If you happen to have what we might call a minority language, a less represented language combination, then Maltese to English comes to mind, or Macedonian to English. If you happen to have that, now there might be less work, but you might be the only person available to do it.
Right. Okay.
So it's interesting to look around, and if you have a particular desire to learn a certain language, you might find that's a useful one to be able to offer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's been really great to talk to you about your experience and have a general idea of what you do and what people can look for in translation. So thank you very much for your time, and
You're welcome.
and hopefully speak to you again another time.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks.